Hey, 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 it's Jen Hart with Jen Hart Be Awesome, and today is day 16 of my 15-minute method to change your life. Today we're talking about self acceptance and self validation. So, what does that mean? Well, it means if you're feeling something, whether it's positive or negative, you're going to validate yourself. And that sounds very boring, but it's actually can change your life 1,000%, maybe even 1,000,000%. Because if you're so used to getting external validation to feel better, to feel worse, a lot of people do that as well. And I can say for certain that I did both. Like I used to, full disclosure, probably at least 10 years ago, when I started on this really hardcore journey of like figuring out myself and loving myself and actually accepting myself and all the fun parts of becoming more actualized, as they say in psychology, which is always, I guess, the ultimate goal so you can fulfill the purpose that you have in life. So, about 10 years ago, I could tell you different points, and I'd have to think about specifically of like when I would look for validation in when I was being negative. Like I would tell the same story over again, or if I was being wanted the pity party. And I'm being very honest here because that is a way of getting attention. And not all times when somebody is having a rough part of life that's what's happening. Sometimes you just hit a really long rough patch, or sometimes you have a really long time not taking control over your life. And there's nothing to be ashamed about having a rough patch or even talking about it, because this is the reason why I'm talking about self-acceptance and self-validation today is that it was one of the key components of how I changed my life, is because when I didn't seek at external people feeling sorry for me or feeling happy for me. Now, doesn't mean that you don't want that inner connection with somebody else, because that's part of being human. About part of connecting with others to see, I see your struggle or I see your greatness, and we can share that. Now, that's a really important part of life, but when you're using it as a tool to feel better or feel worse, in certain cases, when I was more depressed and anxious, I would, in order to feel seen, because when I was growing up, backstory is that I didn't get seen unless something was like major. Like it had to be super major, and even at the majorest of things that were happening to me as a child, they weren't validated. They weren't even seen. So this part of like the fun of changing your life is really kind of taking a look at yourself and going, oh, I do that way more than I realized. And not to feel sorry for yourself or feel upset at yourself. It really is just a check-in to make sure that when you're doing something, it is for your benefit and for your productive goals in life, whether it be if you want to connect with other people, and noticing your own energy, noticing whether or not you're negative all the time, noticing whether or not you're only on the positive side. So this, on the other caveat, is that you can't stand negativity at all. If you can't stand being present with someone else's pain or even your own, I think as this whole thing about getting in touch with yourself and knowing yourself and getting in touch with yourself, and I'll say that again, but in the joking, non-joking part of this is that the reason why we might not feel good about ourselves is because we don't know ourselves, or we're not really acknowledging, validating our own experience. And it's okay to have a different experience than someone else. It's okay to feel shitty and then change to feel better. And it's okay to feel better and then sometimes have a shitty moment. There's nothing wrong with the human experience. We've made it culturally in families, and basically, even now in certain part of the cancel culture, is that you're not allowed to have a bad day. And obviously certain people that's karma in action, really, whether or not you're doing something on purpose or not. Obviously intent is super important. So, but knowing yourself and getting to this point of self-validation, the self-validation piece is really where that change happens, because then you become free. You become free, for you are accepting your feelings. So that doesn't mean like when you're having a shitty year or a shitty moment or shitty Like, say something really awful happened to you, and it legitimately, on all levels, whether somebody else was saying it was awful or not, it was awful, and you're acknowledging it for yourself, that is a healing space. It's you completing a moment and you being able to say, own it in all its purpose, because that's the point of all human existence anyway. When we're having these experiences, it's like owning these experiences, and not just throwing them away really quickly or not acknowledging them, because that acknowledgement and validation will help you take your power, which is the whole point of all of these. Because if you feel victimized or disempowered in your own life, whether it be through depression or anxiety, or just like, if it's not even that heavy duty for you, if it's just like, I don't feel purposeful, I don't feel like I have a direction, it can be just as simple as that. But once you realize that you feel that way, then you can take conscious choice effort towards what you want and change, which is all about what we're doing, feeling better about ourselves, loving ourselves unconditionally, literally. Maybe you've never experienced that before, so that's why it's even more challenging, especially with the validation thing. Because if you don't know what validation is from, say, your parents or your friends, you have no idea how you value yourself. So part of self-validation or self-acceptance is saying, like, for an example of feeling, I guess earlier today I was feeling drained and very low energy and tired. And last night I couldn't sleep. I was having a weird bout of insomnia, which happens occasionally to me. I'm not claiming that as a constant because I don't want to perpetuate that and manifest that more. But it does happen to me, and it's usually for a few reasons. Sometimes it's anxiety. Sometimes it's not processed feelings. Sometimes it's avoiding. So it's funny. Even for me, I do this work every day. It's not fun all the time. Well, it can be fun, but it's simple, but it's not always easy to be like, okay, I got to process some feelings. What are these feelings? And I kind of know where they're coming from. And there's a part of that brain, and this is just to give you an example of maybe where you're not validating yourself. It could be unprocessed feelings. It could be like when you say you have a conversation with like a stranger. Maybe it wouldn't be that important to you if it was a stranger, but like, say if it was a friend and you had an argument or something like that, and you didn't get to voice your concerns or an opinion or just express yourself in any way, that can feel very invalidating. But if you can it's kind of like when it's the funniest thing. It's like when you have an argument with somebody and like you go back to the tape or your text messages or whatever, and you're like, I have the better comeback. So basically, what you're doing is giving yourself the better comeback for yourself. It's not for the other person. Now, you can choose to give that throwback feedback energy to the other person if it's valid and warranted and situational. And if like they say in recovery groups, is like, if you're going to apologize, make sure as best as you can it's not going to cause more harm. And the same with when you need to ask for your needs met and the relationship continues on, then yes, it would probably be beneficial for you to have the conversation. But if it's like some random stranger, you probably don't have to go hunt them down and apologize for something minor, or in your brain it might be bigger. So it's like having the best comebacks, but being able to tell yourself that whatever comeback that you're having in your own internal self, whether it's journaling or just having those conversations, is that at a certain point, like 15 minutes is my favorite, 15 to 30 minutes, is that when you are having that inner dialogue and conversation to say what you really needed to say, validate your own feelings in that situation, what would be the best, most win-win scenario if you wanted a win-win. Sometimes it's your body and your ego and your anger is necessary for you to experience, because then you'll have the power once you express it internally or in what I call a burn book. Basically is what you're the things that you're letting go of and you can burn away. That's how I used to journal all the time. I don't know how I would have gotten out of high school without a burn book, so to speak, of just like writing everything that I've ever felt down. Positive or negative, but usually it was those negative things that were holding me back. Positive things, they still need to be expressed as well. And those are things that we don't always validate in ourselves when we did a good job, or we had a great conversation, or we were able to connect with somebody. All these things are super important. So if you want more information, you can always, or not information, if you want help sorting all this out, I have one-on-one sessions available, and also group packages and all that if you want to work on this with me or anybody else in your sphere. So today was day 16 of self-validation, self-acceptance. Woo-hoo. Yeah. Tomorrow is my new favorite holiday, because I found out this year that I am, well, you'll find out on the next video. I'll talk to you soon. Day 16. Talk to you soon. Bye.